I cannot believe this is happening in Tyler, Texas. As always, I want to thank you for checking out our newest video on living in Tyler, Texas. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you get notified of all of our newest videos immediately once they drop, and you can stay up to date on everything going on here in East Texas. We also have a great Facebook group, Moving to East Texas. It's a wonderful spot for you to connect with other people who have made the move or are thinking about making the move. It's a great place to ask questions, things like that, and learn a little bit more about East Texas. I want to remind you that we are your friend in real estate. We help people every day make East Texas their home. So if you're thinking about making a move, we want to be a resource for you to help make that possible. Don't reach out to Zillow, send us an email, a call, a text, whatever it is. We would love to be a resource in helping make Tyler or East Texas your home. All right, so in today's video, we're gonna look at the Tyler, Texas real estate market, and we're gonna look at some surprising information about the direction it's going. So I'll be honest and upfront, I did not really expect to see some of the trends that I am seeing right now in our market probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I expected everything to rebound a little bit quicker than it really has, and we're gonna kind of get into some of the data today to look at that on a bigger level on what's happening here in East Texas. Now, I'm going to start off with a couple personal deals that I've had that are probably not, based on the stats, an actual example reflective of the entire East Texas market. But I recently just closed 2 listings last week that were sold for less than the buyer paid for them. One was in Lindale, Texas. They bought it in 2022 and they sold it for about $8,000 less than they purchased in 22. The other was in Bullard, Texas, and they sold it for about $22,000 less than they purchased it in 24. Now, there are 2 things that we'll kind of get into a little bit deeper, but I think those are probably going to be more reflective of the price points that they were in versus the overall values in East Texas market. So first up, if we look at real estate sales and transactions from 2025, January 1st through May 31st, you had 619 sales in Tyler, Texas. These percentages are going to kind of be pretty close, but for the video purpose, we're going to focus solely on Tyler. Down to 568 sold transactions this year, January 1st through May 31st. It's 9.2%, so you're flirting with 10% fewer transactions in the Tyler, Texas market this year versus last year in that same 5-month window. Now, to me, we kind of see that a little bit. We've got lots of listings that aren't really getting any sort of traction. So there are, in fact, it appears fewer buyers overall in the Tyler, Texas market than there were this time last year. Now, I think there's a few factors involved there. I think part of what is contributing to that was there was a lot of positive sentiment with the election last year, optimism for the economy, things like that. So people finally kind of got off and started to make a move. But I will say the biggest difference between this year and last year, which I think is a contributing factor to that first number of fewer sales, is the inventory is significantly higher. It's up 22% from this time last year to this year. So there's a little over 80 more listings for buyers to choose from. And I think what that does to an extent is kind of paralyze buyers because they have so many choices. It becomes more difficult to find something to get into. But what's a little confusing and maybe a little contradictory to the down sales and more listings, you would think less demand, more supply would in fact lead to lower prices, but our data doesn't support that. The median price in Tyler, Texas was $297,000 last year in that same window, up to $303,000 this year. So you're looking at about a 5% increase in the median price point here in Tyler, Texas. So despite the conflicting supply and demand laws, our prices are actually going up or people are spending a little bit more. Now, there are some factors in that too, which we'll get into with interest rates here in just a little bit, that could have moved the needle for people to get into bigger homes or to more expensive homes rather. All right, so another stat we're going to look at is months of inventory. We've got currently 5.3 months of inventory in Tyler, Texas. That's up about 1% year over year. So not super consequential, and that will kind of affect, obviously, the number of sales compared to the number of listings is why that number is kind of only 1% higher. And I think part of that is leading us to a buyer's market. I think we're there now. Statistically, I think they say around 6 months is when it becomes a buyer's market, but we've been in this 5-month window for quite a while, and we're starting to see more deals and opportunities in the market for buyers. So the months of inventory, I think, will continue to climb throughout the summer, probably getting north of 6 months maybe. At that point, you will definitely have more opportunity and more deals out there if you're thinking about purchasing. Now, obviously, as inventory rises with fewer buyers, your days on market is going to increase, up about 11 days to 97 total days on market, up from 86 days on market last year, about a 12% increase. So it is taking longer for things to sell for sure. And if it's not priced right, it is just sitting. It is crickets. We don't have people coming in the door to look at the homes. So it makes it even more important when purchasing a home to get a good number. In this market, it doesn't make sense to come in super strong, asking, over asking, that kind of stuff. This is not the market for that. Now, when listing your home, it makes it even more important to price it appropriately. And this is on a national level. This is not just Tyler, Texas. Our numbers are pretty reflective of the national averages, outside of a few markets that may be more of an exception than the rule. You either have to have a better product at the same price, or you have to have the same product at a lower price to move your home. So when making decisions about how to price your home, make sure you are considering those things. Now, those first two listings I gave you an example of, I think this data is going to support part of why they had to kind of concede a little bit of value in terms to get their house sold. We're going to look at price distribution. Less than 16% of the homes sold in Tyler this quarter were less than $200,000. Between $200,000 and $300,000, it makes up 35%, which is the largest percentage of homes sold in this market. And then $300,000 to $400,000 makes up 22%. So less than $400,000 is making up about 70 to 75% of the total number of homes sold in Tyler. That is the majority of the buyers. So if you have a home north of $400,000, it makes it a lot tougher to move. Now, both of those listings were. One was in Bullard, which has an abundance of new construction, priced cheaper, similar homes, less than what it would cost to buy a home that's 1 or 2 years old. Lindell, not different, but one factor there that's even more harmful is the fact that the number of homes selling over $400,000 is even smaller percentage in Lindell than it is in Tyler. So those two homes that I had listed that did not sell at the values that they purchased were just kind of caught in a tough price point where there were just a lot fewer buyers. Just another stat to kind of look at and understand the market dynamics. 64% of the homes that sold in 25 during that time window that we are currently looking at sold for less than they were asking. 66% of the homes this year have sold at less than asking price. The market generally, you're getting a discount now that you didn't get before. I would say it's probably going to be somewhere in the window of 1 to 3, 4%. There will be instances where you may get 5 to 10%, but those are going to be the exception more than the rule. And I think, to say 10% less sounds really good when you're buying something at the store, but when you talk about home values, 10% on a $400,000 home is $40,000. So you don't have that much wiggle room. Typically, your wiggle room is going to be, depending on the price point, obviously, it's probably going to be somewhere in the range of $5,000 to $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. There will be exceptions always to get more off of the asking price, but typically it's going to be somewhere in that dollar amount, and that will kind of fit in that 1 to 4% price window. Now, when we look at mortgage rates, obviously that is such a big factor in determining what you can afford. And now one of the reasons why I think values have actually climbed a little bit, or the median price point has risen, is partially because interest rates now are better than they were this time last year. Starting in January, going through May, we saw a range of 7.1 to 7%, a little higher or lower, but around that 7% window is where we saw most of the transactions occur last year from January through May. If we look at 2026, our current average rate is 6.58, but we started the year somewhere around the low sixes. So we've actually been going up over the past 2, 3, 4 months, but we've still kind of held in that 6.5 range to where we're about 0.5% lower than we were at this time last year. So because the interest rate is down a little bit, people can afford a little bit more. So I think that is kind of protecting and insulating the values of homes here in East Texas to an extent. Now, you get into some of those other price points, and I really think the ones that are most affected are in that $400,000 to $600,000 price point. That kind of represents your move-up buyer. That's typically not your first-time home buyer getting into that price point. So because of that, a lot of those people who would be going into move-up homes are kind of stuck. They don't want to move laterally just to get into a new house because a lot of them have rates sub 5%, sub 4%, even in quite a few still sub 3%. So to move up in payment that much into kind of the same home, because your payment would be the same, essentially pulling your equity, getting into a more expensive house at a higher rate. So I think that window right there of 400 to 600 is the most challenging, but may present the most opportunity for a deal. Now there is a little bit of an outlier, and I haven't dug into the data enough to know this for sure, but the luxury market, and I would really kind of price this 750 plus, is pretty strong. We're seeing days on market for those average around 50 something days. The price reductions are less, they're smaller percentage wise. And so in saying all that, the luxury market is pretty strong, and I can't really account why that is. Maybe it's one of those things where the rich get richer in these times. I do think a lot of it has to do with the growing medical facilities and stuff like that. You've got a lot of doctors and those types of people who make very good money who are still able to transact and get into homes that they like. I had a listing in this price range. We were $100,000 overpriced, and that was kind of even more than what we started out. And we got an offer the first day. We had requests for showings. We executed the contract within, I want to say 12 hours, but we had 4 or 5 requests for showings within that same window. So I felt very comfortable that we were going to be able to sell it. And on top of that, it even made appraisal. It broke the record by more than 10% of any home sold in that community and the neighboring communities. So there are instances where the market is strong. There's always going to be subsets of the market that are performing better than others. And it appears in Tyler, there may be fewer deals out there on the luxury side, just because it does seem like that market is transacting a little bit better than some of those other price points. So to kind of rehash and review the entirety of what we just talked about, first up, inventory is higher. We're looking at substantially more homes on the market, giving buyers more choices. Despite higher inventory, it appears values on the whole are climbing. When we look at median price point, it is up about 5% year over year, making it, your home property value still slightly protected with average to nominal appreciation, which is always great if you're a homeowner. Another point is it is taking longer to sell. So if you are planning to list your home and buy a home, you've got to have more time to kind of thread the needle, so to speak. You want to allow enough time to be able to move your home and get into the right contract. We're looking at about a 12% increase in days on market. So we're moving from just under 3 months to a little over 3 months to sell your home. The majority of the sales transacting here in Tyler, Texas are below the $400,000 price point. That's where the bulk of everything is moving. That kind of fits the income and those sorts of things with our market. So almost everything, or 3/4 of every home sold, is going to transact for less than $400,000. But it does appear that market of luxury homes looking at 750 plus is going to be transacting a little bit better. They have lower days on markets, less price reductions, and overall it seems to be doing pretty well. As always, I want to thank you for checking out our channel, Living in Tyler, Texas. If you like this video or found it helpful, please leave us a comment, give us a like. Also, if you have not already, please subscribe to our channel. That way you get notified of all of our newest videos as they come out. I want to remind you about our Facebook group, Moving to East Texas. It's a great resource for those of you thinking about making a move. Join, ask your questions, get all the information you need. And as always, we want to remind you that I am your friend in real estate. We help people all the time make Tyler and East Texas their home. So if you have questions, please reach out by email, text, call, whatever it is. We would love to be a resource to help you make East Texas your home.